Okay, so this is amazing Toyin. I'm online with one of our members. Her name is Nelly, and Nelly joined a few months ago. And when she first joined, I interviewed her, and she told me I experienced as an investor, and she's also a real estate agent. But one of the things I found out was that um, even though she's been investing for a while, she hasn't made any money in all these properties. So, we did um, a little amount of training. I gave her, uh, my wise, whatever advice I could, and showed her how to get rid of these houses or get rid of the headache so that she can either get started and learn some more and make some money um, instead of just owning real estate, because a lot of people want to own real estate, but if you can make money, there's no point in owning real estate. So I'm going to have Nelly come online and say hi. Hi, Nelly.
Hi, Toyin.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
How's it been going?
Better now that I was able to sell the property. As I shared with you, I tried to. I had an investment property with a tenant. She was sick and wasn't paying the rent. I tried to work with her because I felt that she needed assistance, but really I felt taken advantage of, and I fell behind on bills because I had to make repairs, I had to make the mortgage payment, and so I wanted to get out of that situation, but I emotionally got caught up, and so I needed to refocus and look at my options. So when we met together and you told me that I should offer my property for less, instead of marketing it and selling it for full price value to a regular buyer, that I could sell it to another investor at a cheaper price and get it sold quicker, and that's what I was able to do. I dropped the price so it would be attractive to an investor, but I could still make a little bit of money. And in doing that, I was able to save the house from going into foreclosure, and I was able to walk away from what became my headache and what was really making me feel like a failure. So now that I was able to sell it and make a little bit of money, I no longer have the stress of that property, and therefore feel like I can now move forward and be productive again in real estate.
All right, cool. So now let me ask you this. When you got into real estate, how long ago?
I bought my first property when I was 20 years old, so that was quite some time ago.
Okay. And this Basto property, if I recall, you bought it in 2002, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so from 2002 to 2014, when I met you, that's about 12 years, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And in those 12 years, did you make any money on the property?
Well, it was always rented, so I did always have a positive cash flow. So
Okay.
I did make a good income from it.
Okay. But at some point, then it became a headache.
Yes, when the tenant got sick, I didn't evict her. I was trying to be a good Samaritan and help her out, but she didn't pay the rent for like 8 months. And so and then she needed repairs.
Okay.
And so it really became a bad situation.
When you got into real estate, what was your intention? Was your intention to make money or just to buy properties?
Well, I grew up with my father, who was an investor, and his business plan was to buy and hold, and so
Okay.
that was my intention. But I would really prefer not to do that right now, because right now I'm needing money to help my kids with their education, because they're at the university level. So I really need to buy something and then flip it. So then I can get quick cash, not the positive cash flow. So eventually I do want to buy more properties and have steady income from it, but not right now. In the next 5 years, I just need to buy and flip, and then eventually start buying more properties to where I could have that positive cash flow.
Okay. So you are also an agent, right?
A real estate agent, yes.
Yeah. And so you've been an agent for how long?
I've been a real estate agent since 2005.
Okay. So being an agent really doesn't really give you the training to become an investor and make money buying and selling, correct?
Correct. It does not. It does not. Being a real estate agent does not benefit you in the long term as far as making money on the same level as an investor. You kind of you have to wait on a sale, and you have to wait. The cash flow isn't there. The money you make all goes to bills, and so it's not very steady. But it does not educate you or give you any experience as far as being an investor.
Okay. So will you say that the few sessions that we had together, or can you tell the other members what you learned in terms of being able to sell your property quickly and get rid of the headache?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I say for the few sessions that we have together that I showed you what to do. Can you tell the members what you learned in the short training that we had together?
Okay. So when we met, I was distraught. I thought I was going to lose the house in foreclosure, and I had equity in the property, so I was really frustrated. The tenant wouldn't allow me to show the property. She changed the locks. She let the pool turn green. And when we met, you advised me that I could drop the price. So I did drop the price, and then when I did that, when I sold the property, when I marketed it, I advised the investor that the tenant wanted to stay in the house. So I found an investor who liked the price, who was willing to keep the tenant. They liked the positive cash flow that was there, and that the tenant had been there a long time. So I was able to get an offer within, from the time I marketed it, I got an offer within the same week, and then I closed it 45 days later because the investor was getting his cash from another sale. So I was able to sell the property quickly. I didn't have to. You told me to drop the price, and then you also advised me to seek an investor who wanted to keep the tenant because she was being difficult because she wanted to stay. And so in doing those two things, I was able to get rid of the property quickly. The tenant stayed in the property, which she's happy about, and the investor was happy because he didn't have to do any repairs. He didn't have to clean it out. There's a contract already in place. The tenant is Section 8, so with the county, so he will get direct deposit for 80% of the rent. So it was a win-win situation. So after I met with you, and you helped me discover the options that were available, instead of walking away and losing money and then having the tenant get evicted out of the property because of a foreclosure, I was able to let her stay in the house. I got a little bit of money, and then the investor was able to continue in his investment activity. So he was happy. So everybody was happy. And that I was able to learn from you after sitting with you, I think, twice.
So in only two sessions, you were able to learn all this. And were you able to also learn how you could advertise the property so you could get rid of it quicker?
Yes. I was able to advertise, and there's several free sites where investors go to look. Mm-hmm. But I do have to say, though, this is where I listed it on the MLS, and that's where I got this investor.
Eventually, okay.
Yeah, so being a real estate agent did help me in that. But in the past, I've been able to, I know you suggested also that I put it on other, like Craigslist and other places like that, which I did. But ultimately, it was another agent who found this investor who made
Okay.
the offer.
Okay, so one of the things I want you to learn is that most investors, I mean, I've been an investor, well, for almost 20 years, right? And
Right.
even though I buy properties, when I go to sell, I still use agents. Now, I have an advantage because I'm also a broker, right? Okay.
Right.
And so I'm not surprised that an agent brought you the buyer. Okay. And one of the things you have to learn as an investor is that you always price the cost of selling into your deal. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you didn't price the cost of selling, you end up losing money. Okay. And what most people do is that they think they're going to sell the property themselves and it doesn't sell quick enough, and so they keep losing money as they leave the property in the market, right?
Right.
Especially if you pull investment money to buy the property. Every month the property stays in the market, it costs you money.
Right.
Okay. So also you had some other properties. You had another one in Ohio, right? That you didn't know what to do with for a long time.
Right. And I ultimately, well, initially what happened is it was out of state, and I never did go see it. I did start repair work on it, but the contractor that I hired to do the work, he immediately started to rack up bills, a lot of bills, saying, "Oh, well, I didn't know this was broken or that was broken," and because I was far away, I didn't know. I asked him to videotape it, and he wouldn't, and so I found it to be very, very difficult. So he stopped work. That was within the first few months of me owning the property. Well, eventually I stopped putting money into it. I never went to visit it, and I started getting letters from code enforcement. So they started to attach liens to the property, which I ignored, and they demolished after a few years of not getting any payment on liens and me not correcting any of the citations that I was giving on the house and on the yard. They demolished the property, and so now it's vacant land. And now I can't sell the vacant land for the liens that I owe, so I lost money in that. So it made it difficult because it was so far away. And so I had never bought a property out of state. I bought it at an auction. It was a really good price, but because I didn't do anything with it, then I lost all the money.
So if you had met me when you bought the property, you will have had some exit strategy, right? Based on what you learned?
Yes. I would have had a lot more knowledge on how to go about working with it. A lot of the information that I get from you, it's not really complicated, but in my mind it seemed complicated, but just being able to know that you can advise me on how to handle these things, because I know you have a lot of out-of-state properties too, that it would have helped me a lot, because you told me I could have marketed to local investors, which I never really considered, but I could have made a little bit of money, but instead I ignored it because I didn't know what to do, so now I ended up losing all of my investment.
So now, will you say that it's actually always good for somebody to have a knowledgeable person holding their hands when they go to do this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how advantageous is it for a will-be investor to get training as opposed to going out there and trying to figure it out themselves?
Well, the difference would be instead of making mistakes and having to suffer the consequences, if you have an advisor or an experienced investor who can guide you, you can go to them, and before you get into an investment, you can see if it's a problem. If you have an advisor who can review the investment with you, and so then you can see what the advantages are, what the disadvantages are, instead of blindly going into a situation and hoping that you're making the right decision and then finding out later that you didn't deal with it correctly or it wasn't what you thought it was. So instead of making the because you learn. It takes so much longer when you learn that way. It's so much easier when you can. Like we sat together twice, and I was able to profit off of this property in Barstow. It would have been advantageous to me to have spoken to you sooner, had I known you sooner, so I wouldn't have gone through this situation. I would have quickly dealt with it and evicted the tenant, and then I could have re-rented it, and maybe it wouldn't have been such a bad situation. But definitely having someone to guide you and knowing that they're educated and experienced in investing would allow me to be a lot more profitable and have less bad experiences.
All right, cool. So I wanted to just conduct this small interview just to show other members that when you have an opportunity to get a training, it cuts your learning curve by a whole amount, and you end up not losing money. Because sometimes people think, well, I don't want to pay for training, but then if you don't pay for training, what happens? It ends up costing you more than you could have paid for training, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of pain and suffering and a lot of money lost. Exactly.
Yeah, so it's like it's a question of pay now or pay later.
Right.
So I'm glad you were able to get out of your battle, because I was really concerned for you. When we first met, because even when we first talked, you were like, well, I don't want to get rid of it, and I'm like, I kept asking you, well, why not? You're not making money, so right? You remember?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to thank you for the interview. It's a good experience, and I'm sure you've learned quite a bit, and there's always opportunity to learn more. Okay.
Right.
So I'll stay in touch with you, and you still get our emails, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Nelly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good talking to you.
All right. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, so that was Nelly, and one of the things I want to say is that when people go into real estate, okay, some of them go in with the intention of just buying a house to live in. Others go in with the intention of buying a house for investment. Okay, there's the difference between buying a house for investment and making money, or just buying a house for investment. Okay. Very few people know how to buy a house and make money. And so my goal is to teach you how to make money buying houses. Okay? I always tell people, I get paid to buy houses. If I don't get paid, I won't buy a house. It's as simple as that. Okay? And how do I get paid? I get paid in form of equity. And equity you could turn into cash any day of the week. Okay? So when you go out there and you see all this investment, gurus that are telling you they can do this or they can do that, first of all, you got to ask them, well, show me what you've done. Okay, I've done 400 properties, and I bought each property one at a time. I didn't buy bulk. Okay, so I had to negotiate with you. First, I got to find the property, negotiate with the seller, solve their problem, whether it's tax lien, foreclosure, IRS lien, foundation problems, roof problems, inheritance problem, probate problems, you name it. I've encountered it in the market. And if you're an investor, you're going to encounter those kind of situations on a regular basis. So, if you don't have somebody holding your hand, you are going to run into a problem, because I ran into the same problem. When I first started, I bought Carlton sheets, the overnight late night guru. I bought this program. Okay, the package arrived. I read it. I took the contract out. I started making calls. I found a property. I talked to the owner. I filled out the contract. Then he asked me a question on one of the lines. He had like lines 1 through 5. He asked me a question, and I couldn't answer the question. I was so embarrassed, so I was like, obviously, I didn't buy the property because I couldn't answer his question. So, and I couldn't call Carlton Sheets because he wasn't available to answer my questions. So I put the package under my bed for 5 years. 5 years later, I bought it again and I tried it again and I still failed. And the difference I found out after 20 years of investing is that the people that fail in this business most of the time do not know what they're doing, and so they get discouraged. The other thing is that if you don't have somebody holding your hand, okay, that tells you, okay, this is the way, okay, there's a ditch there, don't fall into the ditch, or this direction is not going to work, or you have a question, you don't know who to ask, okay, because most of the people that you're dealing with cannot answer your question. For example, if you have a problem with title, sometimes the title officer will tell you, you go figure it out yourself. They don't solve problems. The real estate agent doesn't solve problems, okay? The insurance guy doesn't solve your problem, or the construction guy is not going to solve your problem. You have to know how to solve the problem. And if you don't have somebody in your corner that can show you based on the experience, because I've encountered every problem you could think of in real estate after 20 years. I mean, you tell me the problem, I would solve it for you, including filing a lawsuit just to quiet title. Most people don't know what a quiet title is. Most of the time when you buy a tax deeded property, you have to quiet title on it. In other words, you have to prove to the title company that there's nobody else out there that will come in and affect the title. If not, they won't insure it for you. So if you go to an attorney to help you quiet title, they will charge you anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000 depending on who objects. Okay, I had to do it myself. Okay, I went to court, did it myself. It took me almost a year to quiet the title, which is normally what it would take, because it's a lawsuit involved. I learned all those process by doing it. Okay, over a period of time. So over the last 20 years, I've encountered whatever problem there is there as far as real estate. And so that's the opportunity that I'm offering to you, the knowledge that I'm trying to transfer to you, so that you're not out there on your own trying to go blindfolded, hoping that something will give and sometimes maybe you'll make some money. This is not a maybe business. You're going in with your eyes wide open, but you also have a guide, okay? Somebody who's going to support you, hold your hands and tell you and point you in the right direction so you could make money. This business is not about just investing. It's about making money, okay? Time is money, and when you spend your time looking for property, you're making sure you're looking for properties that can actually pay you, not just properties that everybody wants to sell. We're not interested in buying properties that everybody wants to sell. We're interested in finding properties that has problems so we could solve their problems. Okay, if you know how to solve problems, you could make money in this business. Okay, you could solve one problem and make $40,000. Okay, whereas people who have no clue will pass that same problem. They will look at it and say, "Oh, wait a minute, I don't want to deal with this. It's too complicated." But if you know the solution, you just walk right in. Okay, I know because I've had deals where other investors pass by and I pick up the deal and I made $40,000-$50,000. Okay, so that's what I want to discuss today. This is Amazing Toyin. I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from, and if you have questions, you can always go on our website www.gicdealfinders.info. If you're not a member, you want to join so you could get started right away. Thank you.